Good morning, everybody. Good morning, Heather. How are you
Good
today?
morning. I am amazing. Amazing.
So one of the things we always do before we get onto these calls is we have like a pre-call type of thing. And we always have to tell each other to like stop talking because we want to save it for the show. And here we are. So I'm so excited to be here on a Monday. Woohoo! It's Monday. Actually, I was listening to one of our old our other recordings and how much we love Mondays. And Mondays is a beautiful day of the week, especially this Monday, because this Monday is next week would be Boxing Day. So that means
Wow.
we're on our way to Christmas, which for those of you that celebrate Christmas, that's amazing. So excited, and I don't know about you. Like this year's different somehow. How's it for you, Heather?
You know what? This year is definitely different because, um, well, it's different because, there's a lot to be joyful for, but there's also a lot of awareness that there's sadness right now. So there's like these two versions of myself talking to each other. And, I think that just reminds me that even when we're feeling joy, stress is also there. And, the holidays are coming up, family get-togethers causes a little bit more stress. But I also know that there's probably someone, and I've thought of a few names and I've written them down of who I need to reach out to just do a check-in, especially with what's going on in the news. And, there's people that are really, really showing up that they're happy and then, taking their lives. So like, this is not a joke. And Don,
Yeah.
I know that's not where we wanted to go today, but it just showed up for me right at that moment that, this joyful time is not always joyful for everyone. And this is the time to show love. This is the time to show support, and this is the time to really be of service to others. And that's what's showing up for me. And actually, that's what showed up in my meditation this morning too. So, what about for yourself? Why is it different this
Yeah.
year?
No, I love that. I just want to take a second. Good morning, Mohammed. Good morning, Shaylee. Thank you for joining us on a Monday. I love it that you're here with us and just sharing in this energy. It's funny you say that because you're right. There have been things that have been coming up in the media recently just around not really knowing what's happening with other people. And what I love about what you said was just taking a minute and expressing your love, your concern, your joy for the people around you. And I think sometimes that's all you really need to hear. Like, it's, this week is an interesting one for me too, right? So, I'm going to be, my dad's death anniversary is at the end of the week, right? Which is, really, really interesting because if there were moments where I could have spent more time just sharing how I felt or just being there and just things would have turned out different. Not that they would have turned out differently. They turned out the way they needed to turn out. But I think, having that moment, the one thing that I'm incredibly grateful for was just being in the room with him in those final moments, and especially during COVID, because, COVID, a lot of people were restricted from being in hospitals and things like that. But we were given that window and it took full advantage of it. I got to be there. I got to be there in the room and in those final hours where things kind of changed, right? But, building on what you talked about, just taking the moment to just tell somebody you care about them, or you're thinking about them, or you're grateful for them. I don't know about you, but every once in a while, I will go out and I will just randomly send messages to people, say, hey, I'm grateful for having you in my life, or I'm grateful for, the things that you've shared with me, things that you've done. And it's always amazing the responses that I get back. Because
It really
inevitably,
is.
the one thing I always think about is you, Heather, and I think about how you say, if somebody pops into your head, that's the time to reach out to them,
That's the
right?
time. Yeah. Not
Because
later in the day, not tomorrow. Like, as soon as they pop into your head, the universe is sending you a nudge, and take it. And whenever I send a message like that, when that nudge comes, I always get the message back. How did
how
you
did you
know?
know?
How did you know? Every single time. You know who's really good at that? Moise. Moise is on with us today.
Hey,
Moise,
boys.
you are a rock star with making people feel amazing and sending messages when they need them. And I'm going to take this time to say, Moise, you have given me so much love and so much joy, just your smile. So that's my recognition for today. And Moise, you just you're in my head and you're on today, so that's perfect. But John, the other thing that I want to highlight is we talked about the reflection process at the end of the year, and we said we would get a worksheet out for everyone. So that's actually now in our LinkedIn profiles. There's you just and we'll put it in this comment as well.
It's in the comments too, yeah.
It's in the comments, yeah. But this is a really good process to go through, different than New Year's resolutions and the reflection process for the year end, which John, you added to do it monthly, which we're going to add worksheets in January to do that. But it's a reflection to say, what brought me joy this year? What was my greatest source of anxiety or pain? What was my biggest lessons for the year? And then how am I going to make the world a better place? And when you sit down and you reflect on those things, it gives you some breadcrumbs for where you've been, but also can help pave the way for where you're going. And that's really, really important. And then, of course, what's your intention for 2023? So that is a beautiful process. You don't have to wait till New Year's. Do it now. And that worksheet is there for everyone. It's free. It's a download. And John, I know we've already done our reflections, but I actually, Paul mentioned a new process. He said, do one sheet for your personal life and one sheet for your professional life. So I'm like, oh, done. That's a perfect extra step added.
Yeah, no, I love it. I love how the community is actually helping us build this out, right? Like one for personal, one for professional, because, they're different, but they're the same, right? Mm-hmm. Like they're different aspects in terms of what we want to work on, but okay. So Janice is having an issue with the worksheet. I will make sure that
we gotta test that.
Working. I'll make sure it's tested again.
Thank you for letting us know.
Yeah. Thank you, Janice. It's, taking time to reflect is an interesting one, right? Like it's not something, actually, I don't know about you, but I didn't grow up with, actually, no, that's not true. Actually, I'm going to correct myself. Reflection only happened in church. Right. So growing up for me, reflection was on a Sunday, you go to church, you take like a couple of minutes, you reflect, and then you move on to the rest of your week. It's not something that you're actively doing. And I love that we're doing this exercise now, especially at this point in the year, because that reflection, it guides us, right? And there's so many things, going through the exercise, right? The one thing I learned with you last week, going through the exercise, I reflected on the fact that I was, in January, my big exercise goal was to do 31 minutes of walking a day. Like that was my exercise. And I'm like, wait a minute, I signed up for a half Ironman next year. Like, what? Like, how does that happen in 12 months, right? Like you lose track of what you've accomplished because you don't take those moments to reflect. So yeah, it's just,
I love that, right? So 30 minutes a day was your goal last January, almost a year ago. Now you're signed up for an Ironman. Your future self knew that you were going to be an Ironman, but your current self a year ago was like, yeah, I'm just going to walk for 30 minutes. And that's the key, to start where you are, but allow your future self to be the best version of yourself. And, we do a really cool exercise. I love to call it time travel. It has an official name in our neurolinguistics programming world, but time travel to our future self to get all the answers. Because in our line of work, we know that as coaches, asking really good questions helps the person that we're coaching identify the answers themselves. And, when you time travel and ask your future self, what is it that I need to do today that's going to get me to that future version of myself? Well, your answer was walk 30 minutes. Yeah. It's not the same answer anymore, but it was the answer of the time.
Yeah, so actually, and this is one thing that we've been talking and exploring is the how, right? Like we're all consumed and all entrenched in, but what's the how, right? Like, and it's funny because when I started this exercise journey, one of the things I set up for myself last December was to do a triathlon, a small triathlon, but a triathlon. And I had no idea how to do that, to tell you the truth. Like it's been so long since I've done any of these endurance sports. And, over the last 3.5 years, I really didn't take good care of my body. I wasn't eating the right things. I wasn't doing the right things. This is why 31 minutes of exercise was what I really wanted to do. But what was neat and what was, what was like a momental, like I'm lost for words, but what was incredibly important for me was just making the decision that, in June of 2022, I was going to do this triathlon, right? And I'm like, okay, so I signed up for it. Now I got to figure out the pieces to get there. And I think there's a lot of times where, if I were to think about how am I going to do that? Hey, how am I going to squeeze in the time? Hey, how am I going to get to the pool? How am I going to get onto a bike? Like, if I thought about all the things on how to do it, I probably would have never made the decision.
Mm-hmm.
And what I realized, and actually I did a TikTok on this last week, it just stems from just making the decision. Both you and I have done that. We made a decision not knowing how. And I think if we take a second, this is why I love this reflection exercise, because the reflection exercise teaches us that we didn't know the how as we were going through the year. The reflection exercise says, you know what, you did things that you didn't know how to do, but now you've done them and now you know how, right? We all start with making that initial decision. It's like,
I love it. And my intention for last year was movement. And that movement, at the time that I made it, John, I was walking up the stairs one at a time. And, last month I climbed Mount Tabuko in the highest peak in Africa, in Northern Africa. Like, are you kidding me? That's insane. Like, that's where it goes. And I know for those of you that tune in with us all the time, you hear these stories over and over again. But the reason we tell these stories is because we put these goals out there, not knowing how we get there. And then we prove to ourselves that we can do more. And we want to share this. And we tell each other what our goals are. And we highly recommend that the more people you tell, the more people will step up to help. And here's a perfect example. John's talking about his half marathon. What does Moise say? Hey, he's got a great trainer. So the more people you tell, the more people come on and want to be part of your journey. Everyone wants you to be successful. There's nobody that wants you to fail. The only one that's trying to make you fail is that little internal dialogue that's trying to keep you safe. And safety is not where you want to live. You want to be you want to be comfortable with being uncomfortable in everything you do, and let go of that how.
Yeah.
I just love it. All right, my intention for next year is strength. And so we've kicked off, me and John and anybody else that wants to join us. I'm doing a plank challenge every single day for the next 31 days. And I've already added 20 seconds to my plank, and that's like 5 days. That's crazy. I didn't think that was possible. And John, you sent me your numbers yesterday. So, we do little tiny things, because a plank now, well, I'm doing it for a minute and 30 seconds and then I'm huffing and puffing afterwards. So 2 minutes, 2 minutes is what I've dedicated to my strength exercise as the start. A year from now, what am I going to be doing? Holy cannoli. That person I can't wait.
I love it. Yes, I've incremented my planks by 10 seconds over this past weekend. So I'm really happy about that. And so, what's interesting is what's showing up is, and I feel like the theme for today is just as you go into the weekend, right? Number one, be loving, right? Share love with other people, share love with the people closest to you, or share love with people that you've been wanting to share love with, but you've been holding yourself back from doing that. And I know, listen, tensions rise during the holidays. I don't know what it is, but there's something that happens during the holidays. If you were to step into your future self today, right? If you were to step into your future self of 2024, let's go there, right? Let's go to January of 2024. What pieces of advice would you give yourself today? Who would you be more caring and thoughtful towards? What would you say that you've been not saying? And, how can you just be more open with those closest to you? I think that's incredibly important. And Moise, thank you for the recommendation. I'll connect with you afterwards on that. But don't hold yourself back, right? Because, and actually I've been watching this amazing series on Disney, and it's not a cartoon. I do love cartoons though. It's called Limitless with Chris Hemsworth. Actually, Heather, I think I mentioned it to you. So I was watching the episode yesterday around acceptance in and around aging. And it was really
Mm.
interesting because as we get older, the one thing we don't do is we don't accept who we are as we become older, right? Or we don't even realize the things that are going to be happening to us. And really, what helps us deal with aging is acceptance of aging. It actually helps us live longer, happier lives. When we accept the fact that we're going to age, we live happier, healthier lives. And this is all done through
I
studies.
know the norm is like not to say how old you are, not to be. I love who I am today. Like I am a proud 50. This is my 50th year. I earned every single year, and I have no problem saying that's how old I am because I think it comes with all kinds of goodness. But here's the other thought that comes with that is this moment right now where I'm sitting talking to all of you. I'm the youngest I'm ever going to be in my whole life right now. So if I am not living, if I'm not doing, if I'm not taking action, then this is the easiest it's going to be because right. So how do I make sure that it's actually easy every single day at every moment that I'm present and at this the youngest version of me? Like I am the youngest version of me right now that I've ever lived. And in 10 minutes, I'll be the youngest version at that moment. But that's being in the present moment. But John, you've actually this limitless and this age thing, people have been showing up for you as coaches,
Yes.
mentors, messages that tell us about that because you're just like,
Yeah.
this is
Yeah.
really cool how it shows up.
And so it's been interesting. So, I spoke about my dad already. So both my parents are no longer with us, and bless their souls, they were amazing to me, in terms of humans, but they're no longer with me, right? Like, and 60 and 70 is really when they left this earth. But what's been showing up for me this year are people in their 60s, 70s, and 80s showing me a different way of living. And it
Mm.
wasn't even intentional. One of my mentors, and actually we had her on the podcast as well, Pat, is 70 and she's crushing it. Like she is climbing, she's hiking, she's doing all these amazing things, serving as a model of the world for me at that age. And all I think about is, why is this showing up for me? Taking a second to reflect in terms of, what's been going on. Why is this showing up? And it's because they are doing things and there are opportunities for me to model what they're doing in order to get to that stage in life and still be incredibly healthy. And
Mm.
every time, like even when I did my triathlon this year in June, I met a gentleman, ironically, by the name of John, who is in his late 60s. He's been doing these triathlons since 1989. And I asked him, I always look for, the one thing I'm always interested in is, what piece of advice could you give me? Right? Like it's been a long time since I've done one of these. What's one piece of advice? He goes, just it's your own race. Go at your own pace. You go as fast or as slow as you want to go, but that's on you. And I'm like, whew. And I
John, every time you
remember,
tell this story, every time I see your future self in that guy looking back at you saying, hey, it's your own race, run it. Right.
yeah,
And
yeah,
that's like, that's exactly the message you needed to hear.
and it's funny because I wasn't asking for that. I wasn't looking for that. But what I do know, and in the work that we do, is when we prep our minds, our subconscious minds, to look for things that we need, those things show up for us because those are the things that are visible to us. And at that moment, that's what I needed from John, because as I was in the water, 50 meters in, I was like panic attack, anxiety, feeling like I was going to drown. And I looked over and John was just doing the breaststroke, relaxed and eased, right? And I'm like, ooh, I could do that. And that's it, right? Like sometimes we just need to be aware of the models that already exist around us to do the things that we want to do. So I just wanted to take a second. Felicia's also been doing the plank challenge, increasing time every day by a few seconds. Excellent. It's just those little small incremental changes every day that really help us get to where we want to be.
And it's proof that we can do more. We can do more than we think we can. So, but only if we try, only if we take action.
You got to take action. And so, there's a bunch of different things that we talked about in here, but I think if there's one thing that I want to leave everybody with, and as a homework assignment, one of the things that we do as part of all of these calls is we give homework assignments. Go out and reach out to somebody, that's either popping into your head or somebody you feel like you need to reach out to, and just let them know, I was going to say, let them know what you think about them, but let them know what you think about them in a good way. and just let them
Mhm.
know that you're thinking about them, that you care about them, and that you just want to share a little bit of love with them. And even if it's
Text
just,
message, a
yeah,
video, like people
yeah,
love to get these messages, and
yeah,
it makes a big difference. And then if I could add something to it, John, I'm going out today. So what came up in my meditation is that I needed to show love to the people I'm going to interact with, because there's a lot of stress. There's snow on the road. There's people. I'm going to get my car serviced. I know there's going to be someone that has anxiety. And so I'm going to show love to everyone that I
mm,
meet today, and see if I can positively impact as many people as possible today. So that's
yeah.
also a great thing to add to your assignment.
Yeah, no, I got to step out this afternoon, so I'm going to do the same, just showing love in every interaction that I have today.
Love it.
It's amazing because when you do that, you show up differently and things around you show up differently. I love
Hmm.
that. Okay, so wow, I can't believe 20 minutes has already gone. So happy Monday, everybody. Happy Monday, everybody. We will be back Wednesday and Friday this week, and then we're going to take a bit of a break. We do have the reflection template available in the comment section or in the description section of this video, so you can download it there. I'm so excited to be sharing that with all of you. But the power of reflection is so powerful, so make sure you take a minute to do that and share some love today. All right. So with that, we're going to
Fantastic.
say ciao. Wishing everyone a great one. See you all Wednesday.
Bye, everyone.